You didn't measure the Earth being tilted. What
Yeah,
you
I did.
What you
I
did
did,
was
actually.
you looked at the sun, you reified and assumed your model. You assumed the causation of the ecliptic plane was actually the Earth tilted. That's what you did.
What's your view? You think it's a geocentric solar system or universe? How would you describe it?
I do, yeah. And with Newton, that was not allowed. Newton had equations, F equals ma, and some other ones that only allowed a heliocentric universe. The rest of the universe was absolute and inert. It had no effect on our solar system. So the way Newton figured things out was the sun's the biggest thing, has the most gravity. That means all the planets have to go around it, including the Earth. And that's all his system would allow because he dealt only with the solar system and forgot the rest of the universe.
Oh, interesting.
Okay?
Well, so is the Earth stationary?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you do believe in a stationary Earth?
Oh, yeah.
What do you think about that, Scott? You don't believe in that, obviously.
No, I mean, so in general relativity, we can describe a reference frame in which Earth is centered and stationary. But general relativity says there is no preferred reference frame. You can't have an absolute reference frame in general relativity. It just doesn't work. So, you can describe things that way. But yeah, in my view, it makes sense that, the sun has the most mass in the solar system. Sure, you can describe a reference frame where Earth is stationary, but you could equally describe one where we go around the solar system barycenter. I'm not a heliocentrist in the sense that I think that our solar system's the center of the universe. Obviously, and I'm sure we'll get into it, but there's a lot of talk about the cosmic microwave background radiation, and that's basically a fragment from, the Big Bang, where you have this leftover radiation, and certain aspects of it seem to suggest that it aligns well with the ecliptic plane, which is the orbits that the planets go around the sun. But those alignments are not as exact as some make them out to be. And there's also the fact that we have an annual shift in the cosmic microwave background radiation. You can actually see a modulation of it as we go around the sun every year.
Yeah, but in the cosmic microwave background, it does, in that picture, it shows the Earth as the center of the universe.
I got to do a pause real quick because we got fact checked by someone in the super chat already.
Yeah, that's not true. Google does say you can.
No, I'm sorry. I Googled it and Google says no. So
It used to say yes.
Look at this. Google's AI says no. A person born with male reproductive organs and living as a man cannot get pregnant.
Wow.
Wow, that changed.
It says, however, some transgender men and non-binary people can become pregnant.
The Trump effect.
Well, it used to be yes. Oh, but back to the cosmic microwave background.
Yeah, back to the...
It says if you do believe that is a real thing, right?
Of course.
Yeah, and it does show that the Earth is the center of that.
Well, what it shows is it shows certain alignments, but they're off by anywhere from 8 to 17 degrees if you convert it to ecliptic coordinates. So if you, the cosmic
That's not
microwave
much.
background.
I mean, you're making it sound like that's a whole big deal. It's not much.
But I
because
think-
you have the quadrupole, the octopole, the axis of evil, three that are different, and so they're going to be shooting up in different directions.
Those are all different from each other as well. They're all
yeah,
about 8 to
but they're not
17
different in
degrees.
the sense that they're looking at a different microwave radiation. They're just modulating it differently because now you have 8 harmonic.
But I'm saying they're not all co-aligned. They're off by 8 to 17 degrees. I mean, it's
Yeah, but
it's
the
an
middle
interesting
of that 8 to
coincidence, but it's
17
not-
degrees is the axis of evil.
Right.
That's the issue.
What is that?
The axis of evil is a term given to one of those directions that is aligned almost exactly with our ecliptic plane, 23.5 degrees. Okay, so if you're supposed to be out there in the remote recesses of space, like the Big Bangers think, the Earth is just out there with everybody else. It has no significance, no speciality. How is this radiation aligned with the Earth-Sun ecliptic plane? When
Accident?
it's just
Coincidence?
But again, my point is the alignment is not that exact. The quadrupole is
it's
is
enough for
23
the
degrees from
scientists to
equator.
say this is something.
They called it evil. All right, let's make sure everyone understands it. So in the globe model, they say the Earth is tilted at 23.4 degrees. So
And then
it's-
but real quick, sorry, Austin's about to go on a very good rant, and we need to let him talk. But when you say that tilt, Tim, 23.4 degrees, subtract that from 100. What is that?
90. Subtract
Excuse me,
from
from 90
degree
degrees.
angle.
What is that?
23.4, 23.66.7. 6.
666. And then how fast is the Earth orbiting the sun, Austin?
66,600 miles per hour.
Is that true?
That is true.
That's a sign. He says yes.
That's true. And tell him, is that not
in
true?
the
Is it not going
heliocentric
60?
model.
So Earth's orbital velocity is constantly changing. There's no one exact value. And if you look at it to
What's the average of it?
average.
well, I mean that's about the average, but
That's exactly the average.
That proves that the Earth is flat.
Yeah, there you go.
Exactly the average. Wait, this is the thing. This is
even
the
the 23.4, that's not exact either, and it's constantly changing. We actually have to calculate this. Anytime we do coordinate conversions to ecliptic coordinates, we have to take the current obliquity of the ecliptic. The tilt of the Earth is constantly changing slightly.
Yeah, he's right.
But you're just saying that, right? Like this is the thing. This is what always happens. People just beg the question and assert the model and then equate that to being true.
But I
So
measure
what
it. That's the
You
beauty
didn't
of it.
measure the Earth being tilted. What
Yeah,
you
I did.
What you
I
did
did,
was
actually.
you looked at the sun, you reified and assumed your model, you assumed the causation of the ecliptic plane was actually the Earth tilted. That's what you did. So what we see, so I want the audience to understand, we see the sun move in a certain path. They're claiming it looks tilted because the Earth is tilted and it's an illusion. They also claim that what's called the analemma, so the sun does this like extended figure 8 that isn't perfectly symmetrical if you time lapse it throughout the year. They say that's because we're moving. And it makes it look like the sun is moving. So obviously, just in very simple terms, we're saying, oh, the sun is moving. That's why we see the sun moving. You're claiming it's an illusion. So you actually have the burden of proof just on its face, right?
Well,
what always happens is
But Austin,
Real quick. Sorry, just put a pin in it. I'm curious. If you have a geocentric view, why is the sun doing a figure 8?
Well, the analemma is complicated. I mean, I do cover it in the book here, but there is a certain, and the analemma actually moves itself by a few degrees.
What is that?
It's
That's the figure 8.
how the sun is going to, it moves daily, okay, and yearly. There's 2 different movements of the sun. The analemma is going to go by the yearly movement, okay? So that's why it makes a complete figure 8. You get the same thing when they put satellites up in over the Earth. They make a figure 8. You can make them make a figure 8. You can make them make a circle. You can make them do anything depending on how fast you make the satellite move and the tilt that you want it to have along the equator, okay? So the sun has a certain tilt, 23.4 degrees, and it's going to go longer in the north than it does in the south, so you're going to get a figure 8 that's going to represent the different speeds of the sun compared to where the Earth is. And it's complicated, but that's
my point is
basically
simply whether you believe that the Earth is going around the sun or the sun is going around the Earth, you can still measure that. You can still measure
sure,
that.
yeah.
Of course, it's an observation. You're assuming the cause of the observation is the Earth is moving.
But you
This
said
is
I didn't
actually what's
measure.
it's even worse though. Like,
No.
let's just use it like really simple terms. Occam's razor. So if you have an explanation you have 2 different explanations for the same cause or phenomena, right? You're going to go with the simplest one that requires least amount of assumptions if they're both viable. And then if you're going to claim that there's something else that requires more assumptions, you got to verify it. It's actually way worse than this though. It's been scientifically proven with empirical measurement that the Earth is not moving. And we've actually shown that the interferometry correlates to periodicity of the sun, meaning that the solar motion, how light travels and interferes with itself, changes based on the time of year. So it is empirically proven that the Earth is not moving. So not only do we not just grant it to you, right? Because you're just saying the model as if it's true.
Yeah, I
This
think
is
he
kind of the problem
understands. He understands that, and I want to take off from where you left off with general relativity, and then go back to his point, if you don't mind. It might take me a couple minutes, but so you admit with general relativity that the sun can go around the Earth, or the Earth can go around the sun, right?
You can describe it that way.
Well,
Einstein
it has
did
to
say
be
that.
real for you to describe it that way. I mean, in other words, you just can't say it's possible. I mean, we could have one of those scenarios as the true system, correct?
No,
Why?
you can't have either scenario because it doesn't have a preferred frame of reference.
What's it?
Meaning general relativity. General relativity doesn't allow you to have.
Okay,
an
but here's the
absolute frame of
point I was
reference.
trying to make before. Whereas Newton would only allow a heliocentric system, general relativity allows both a geocentric and a heliocentric system. So with the medieval science of Newton, we're never going to get a geocentric system. But with Einstein and Mach, we're going to get it as a possibility. So then it's just a matter of determining which one's the correct one.
No, it doesn't work that way, because to suggest that there is a correct one would be to suggest that there is an absolute reference frame. You just got
Well, look, we see this. We see the stars and the sun go around us every day, right? One of them has to be correct. Either the Earth is moving or the sun is moving around the Earth.
From a general relativistic point of view, you don't have any particular reference frame. You can't make an absolute
You're
statement.
basically arguing solipsism. You're saying there's no objective truth at this point.
According to general relativity, there is no absolute reference
General
frame.
relativity doesn't make philosophical
no.
claims about objective truth.
But from our perspective, you're saying that the reference point of how we see the stars and everything moving is the sun is the reference point. We are going around it. That's how we perceive the universe.
That is a useful, that is a useful reference frame in a lot of circumstances. There are some reference frames, like if I'm measuring the motion of a satellite, the first reference frame I'm using is actually one that has my telescope at the center of the universe. And if I'm predicting a solar eclipse and predicting the path of a solar eclipse, I actually use the moon as the center of the universe. So I'm using a selenocentric reference frame. But that doesn't mean I believe that the moon literally is the center of the universe.
Of course.
That's also incorrect, actually. When we map out eclipses, we use ECEFs. We do not use we map out the eclipses with an Earth-centered, Earth-fixed system. Satellites use Earth-centered, Earth-fixed system. You have to actually transform it to an ECI.
But his point.
Austin, that's not what I've done, though. You're talking about maybe something someone else has done. I've personally predicted the path of total solar eclipses, and I've done it using a selenocentric reference frame. I've published this on my channel.
Well, you could use an Earth-centered reference frame too.
And that's what NASA
that's your
actually
point.
does. That's what NASA actually does.
Okay, so let's going to go back to the same point. Is it doesn't matter what reference frame you use. You see a reality when you look into the sky that something's going around something.
Do you agree?
You can't have them both going around each other.
Why not? You can. I mean, general relativity says you can define whatever reference frame you want, and like I said,
Yeah, but we
depending on the
deal
circumstance,
with the
sometimes it's
reality.
useful to define it as the center of the telescope. Sometimes it's useful to define it as the solar system Barry.
Well, we understand what you're saying.
Real quick.
It can be either way.
Isn't it in the conventional model that everything is sort of going around each other? That two bodies impose gravitational pull on each
that's how
other?
Newton got to the heliocentric version. He said that there's a center of mass between the sun and the Earth.
Yeah.
But since the sun is bigger, the center of mass is going to be more inside the sun than it would ever be to the Earth.
And so, but the Earth does pull on the sun. It's just negligible.
Negligible, yeah. So, but the fact is, you can have that system where the Earth is going around the sun, okay? Or to explain what we see in the sky, the sun and the stars can be moving around a central Earth. And general relativity allows that. His thing is like, well, it doesn't make any difference what general relativity allows. It can't pinpoint what the actual thing is. Well, I agree.
But
I agree. The fact is that it allows it. So we can't base our decision on what Newton said, because that's what everybody does today.
But isn't the simplest argument, I suppose, is that when you map out the pattern of planets in a geocentric model, they're kind of erratic? And
No, they're not. That's what they make it look like. In the Tychonic model, they're all going around the sun, same as they're doing in the heliocentric system. The only difference is the sun's going around the Earth at the same time it carries the planets in the Tychonic geocentric system.
Yeah.
So it's a very simple system. As a matter of fact,
So
the one that's complicated is the heliocentric system.
let me try. Are you saying that the sun does move around the Earth and the planets are being pulled on by the sun as well?
That's
creating
right.
That,
Right. So it's almost like a mirror image of the Copernican system, except that the sun's going around the Earth.
But so real quick, sorry, I'm trying to understand this. So the sun has pull on the planets.
Yeah.
And do you believe the sun then is not as massive? It's smaller.
No, same sun in both systems.
But is it
What
just
we have now is another force involved because the universe is rotating.
Yeah.
And that's going to cause centrifugal, Coriolis, and Euler forces on the solar system. And it's going to make that sun go in complete tow by the forces of the rotating universe around a fixed Earth.
And so just to clarify, you're saying the Earth is then fixed. It cannot be moved.
Right.
Right.
Doesn't-
Like, let's
doesn't
make
rotate.
sure.
Well, hold
doesn't
on.
revolve.
I want to ask Robert a question here because I'm curious about this. Let's say that you took a SpaceX Starship and you went to Mars and you had a family and your family grew up on Mars. How would they perceive the universe? Would they perceive the sun going around Mars instead?
They're going to see it from the Mars point of view. And I have no problem with that. The question is that the real system? You can go on Pluto and live if you want, and you're going to see everything revolve around Pluto.
Right.
That's
And
not
so-
the issue here.
But that drives my question then. What is your evidence that it is Earth as opposed to if you grew up on Mars, you would feel like it was Mars.
We've done physical tests on the Earth.
That's where
definitively
Austin
prove it.
comes in.
Yeah,
That's where I was going to go
We've definitively
next.
proven it. We have Aries failure, stellar aberration. It doesn't change when you introduce an additional medium. We have Michelson-Morley, and we can get into all these, but interferometry, that was right. Then Michelson-Person matched the sidereal rotation. I'm not actually trying to scattergun. I want to make sure that the audience is following here. So we have Newton. You have the idea that the sun's really huge. It has the most gravity. The planets move around it, so it's logical that the Earth would also move around.
So Austin, let me ask you a question.
Just a second. So then Mach came along and said, wait up, Newton didn't even think about the rest of the universe. He thought the sun was the center of the entire universe. So when we actually take his theory even and we apply it to a rotating universe, the angular momentum of that whole universe would outweigh any effect of the sun, and the Earth could be in the center. This spills over into relativity as well. Now, I actually reject all of this. I reject the claim sizes. I don't even believe in all that. But it's misinformation. It needs to be pointed out that even in the Newtonian and Einsteinian models, the Earth could be in the center. So what we need to do is go back to Earth, look at the actual test, the empirical evidence. What does the empirical evidence show? Instead of this woo-woo, we can't know the truth, it could be anything. What does that serve us? We did tests on the Earth that proved that the Earth is not moving.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Culture War podcast. We're live every Friday, 10 a.m. to noon, so subscribe and come hang out.